Welcome back to the Alibaba Success Guide, and in this video we are going to be discussing finding a product to sell. Now, one of the things you'll notice about Alibaba is that the actual process of starting your product search is going to be fairly straightforward, and it's going to be intuitive when you see the actual interface. You will be browsing product categories and browsing the search for what you're basically looking for in terms of a product. Now, of course, you should already have some idea of the market that you're going to be looking for. Now, on Alibaba, there are basically two ways to conduct your searches, and we will be looking at them in a minute. You can either search for items based on product descriptions, or you can search for items based on suppliers. So first, let's take a look at browsing categories. Alibaba will have a number of categories here on the side, and of course a number of subcategories, and you can actually start your search based on the market that you know that you're looking to get into. So for example, if you're going to be looking at men's clothing, and in particular men's shirts, you can start your search inside of a category and go inside of men's clothing. Once you're inside of men's clothing, you can start to look in particular for the item that you're looking for. And we said that we'd be looking at men's shirts. So we can actually continue to browse using this category. Once you have those categories, you'll have lots of other subcategories that you can start to look through in order to narrow down your search. Now, of course, we'll be talking about quality areas that you can actually narrow down your search, but what you want to do is to start thinking about what kind of market you're looking for and how you can narrow your search down inside of Alibaba. As you can see here, you've got 130,000 selections that you can actually choose from. But you can actually probably narrow that down by taking a look at things that you want. Perhaps you want a 100% polyester search. And then you can actually further narrow it down, and you'll see the actual numbers here in this area. So you can actually then start to narrow it down to adults. And then you can actually continue to narrow your search down. Perhaps you are looking for polyester and you're looking for flannel, and then you've only got 36 choices here. And then you actually have a reasonable sampling that you can begin to narrow down your search based on some of the categories that you have at the top. Now, of course, we can also source products by looking at them according to their product description or their name. So if you were to write into your category name a digital camera, you can then begin your search inside of Alibaba in that way. And you'll notice here that Alibaba does give you some convenience areas that you can start to narrow down your search even before you actually get to the page. Maybe you're looking for a digital camera that carries an SD card. And once again, you're going to start to see categories that you can start to narrow down based on what it is that you know you want to sell, based on what you know is already going to be a market on one of the larger websites such as eBay or Amazon. Now, once again, you can actually search based on supplier, and so all you'll need to do is to go to this drop down box and then look for suppliers. Now, of course, you will need to know kind of what you're looking for, but in this particular case, what we're going to do is we're just going to take a look at what a search looks like for a particular subscriber just by typing in a letter. Now, in this particular case, if we were to take the search that looked for Android television, you would start to see that certain suppliers or certain purchasing agents are going to show up. You're also going to see certain suppliers show up here in the search area. Once again, we haven't started looking at narrowing down based on our key categories, but you will get an idea of what you're looking for in terms of suppliers. And Alibaba does give you choices and areas where you can narrow down. As you can see here, you've got 677 suppliers. You can actually narrow those suppliers down to places where you want, or suppliers that have what you want, and you can use the columns on the left side that will give you a more of a reasonable search that you can start to actually look for people that will have what it is that you want to sell in the marketplace. Now, the question is, of course, what should you actually be looking for as you go through your product search? And there are a couple of things to keep in mind. Now, the product pages are going to give you information that is going to help you in your actual search. And what you want to do is you'll want to consider taking an organized approach to evaluating the information. I'm going to be talking about that here in this video. Now, you're looking at a fairly basic page here that will give you product information. And we're going to be talking about what actual information we should be looking for as we go through each particular product page. But this is very similar to what a product page is going to look like as you start to narrow down your search. Now, the information that you're going to want to pay attention to, you are going to want to pay attention to the unit price. That's one thing. You'll also want to pay attention to something called FOB. Now, of course, free on board means it is the basic cost of delivering the goods or the product that you're choosing to the nearest port, but you are going to be responsible for the shipping from that port. So it's a way of just describing the amount of shipping that you are going to be responsible for. Now, one important aspect of the information you're going to be looking for is going to be the minimum order quantity, and that's going to determine what the minimum order is that you can actually get from the supplier. And this is going to be important because you want to be able to determine if your product is going to be profitable, and you don't want to order a large quantity before you actually know that your product is going to sell. So determining what that number is going to be a vital part of deciding whether or not you're going to move forward on a particular product. Now, another area on the page that you'll see is going to be payment options. And let's talk about those payment options for a second. Some suppliers are going to want the upfront bank transfer. And this is actually considered to be fairly risky. And so in some cases, you might want to eliminate some suppliers who want their bank transfer sent to them upfront. It is a very difficult way of doing business with a supplier that you don't know. Another payment option that's often offered is a letter of credit, and this actually gives you the opportunity to build up credit with the actual supplier or with someone that the supplier trusts. Western Union is considered to be fairly risky because you're actually sending a bank draft that cannot be rescinded, or it cannot be traced to some degree until after the supplier has actually cashed the actual money order. And so Western Union, in some cases, this could be, unless you know the supplier well, one of the ways that you might weed out a particular supplier that you are going to deal with. A fairly safe way of doing business is going to be PayPal. Of course, PayPal has to have a verified party. They have to verify the process, and then you actually have recourse against a seller if something doesn't go the way you think that it should. And probably the safest of all is going to be escrow, depending on how experienced you are in working with suppliers. Now, let's take a look at an actual page. Now, as you can see here on this page, you can actually get the latest FOB price right here in this area. If you click that link, you're also going to see that the minimum order quantity on this item is going to be 1 piece. Right now, the other thing that you're going to want to take note of are the payment options. And as you can see, this supplier has Western Union, MoneyGram, and PayPal letter of credit, as well as upfront transfer. So you can actually have a range of options available to you that will allow you to work with this supplier. Now, these are going to be the basic items you're going to use in order to start narrowing down your search and to find products. Now, we're actually going to be looking at some other aspects of the process that you can use in order to narrow down to determine that you're actually making a safe transaction, and you're going to have one that's going to lead to your being able to build a relationship with the supplier. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video.